Hi everyone. Welcome back to our channel. In our previous video, we tackled some challenging questions from the May-June 2016 Paper 1, and today, we're continuing right where we left off. In this session, we'll be reviewing and analyzing the next set of questions from the same paper. We'll break down each question, discuss the key concepts, and highlight important details to help you ace your exams. Whether you're revising for your O-level exams or just brushing up on your biology knowledge, you're in the right place. So, let's get started with our first question of the day, which is about the production of penicillin. Let's dive in. Where is penicillin produced? A. In a fungus. B. In bacteria. C. In the brain. D. In the pancreas. And the correct answer is A. In a fungus. Let's break it down. Penicillin is produced by a mold called Penicillium notatum. This fungus naturally produces penicillin as a byproduct of its metabolism. Alexander Fleming discovered this in 1928 when he observed that the mold could kill bacteria. Now, let's explore the other options. Option B, in bacteria. While some bacteria can produce antibiotics, penicillin is not one of them. Instead, it's the Penicillium mold that produces this antibiotic. Option C, in the brain. The brain is an incredibly complex organ, but it doesn't produce penicillin. Its functions are related to cognition, emotions, and bodily control, not antibiotic production. Option D, in the pancreas. The pancreas is vital for digestion and blood sugar regulation, but it does not produce penicillin. Its role is entirely different from the production of antibiotics. So, to recap, penicillin is made by the fungus Penicillium notatum, not by bacteria, the brain, or the pancreas. In the next question, we're exploring an essential part of penicillin production. Let's take a closer at the diagram. Here we have a diagram of the equipment used in the industrial production of penicillin. As you can see, the diagram includes several components, nutrients and microorganisms, a stirrer, sensors for temperature and pH, a vent, and pathways for water in and out. But what about the structure labeled X? What could be the purpose of this structure labeled X? Let's explore the options. A. Is it to insulate the fermentation vessel? B. Is it to maintain the pressure of the fermentation vessel? C. Is it to monitor the temperature of the fermentation vessel? D. Or is it to remove the heat produced by the fermentation process? Alright, let's break down these options. Insulating the fermentation vessel, option A, helps with temperature control, but that's not the main role here. Maintaining pressure, option B, is crucial, but there's another component dedicated to this task. Monitoring the temperature, option C, is vital, but there's already a sensor for that. So, what's left? Removing the heat produced by the fermentation process, option D. This is a key function in fermentation processes. When microorganisms break down nutrients, they generate heat, which needs to be managed to ensure optimal conditions for the microbes to produce penicillin effectively. Therefore, the purpose of the structure labeled X is indeed to remove the heat produced by the fermentation process. This helps in maintaining a stable temperature, ensuring that the fermentation proceeds efficiently and produces high-quality penicillin. In the next question, we're tackling an intriguing question about fermentation in alcohol production. Let's dive right in. The question is, during the fermentation process, why must air be kept out of the fermenter? Is it A. To allow production of carbon dioxide? B. To inhibit the growth of yeast? C. To prevent aerobic respiration? D. To prevent anaerobic respiration? Option A. To allow production of carbon dioxide. While it's true that carbon dioxide is a byproduct of fermentation, air isn't needed to produce it. Carbon dioxide is produced whether air is present or not, so this option doesn't quite fit. Option B. To inhibit the growth of yeast. Actually, keeping air out doesn't inhibit yeast growth. In fact, yeast thrives in the absence of oxygen during fermentation. The problem with air is not related to yeast growth but to the type of respiration. Option C. To prevent aerobic respiration. This is the correct answer. When air is present, yeast can switch to aerobic respiration, where it uses oxygen to produce energy, water, and carbon dioxide, instead of alcohol. This reduces the amount of alcohol produced, which is why we keep air out. Option D. To prevent anaerobic respiration. This option is incorrect because anaerobic respiration is actually what we want during fermentation. Without air, yeast performs anaerobic respiration, which produces alcohol. So, preventing anaerobic respiration would be counterproductive. To sum it up, the reason we keep air out of the fermenter is to prevent aerobic respiration and ensure that yeast can efficiently produce alcohol through anaerobic respiration. The next question states which type of organism depends directly on light energy for its nutrition. Is it A, carnivore? Carnivores are organisms that primarily eat other animals. They don't directly use light energy but instead rely on consuming other organisms for their nutrients. How about B, decomposer? Decomposers break down dead organic matter into simpler substances. While they play a crucial role in nutrient cycling, they don't use light energy directly for their nutrition. Or maybe C, herbivore. Herbivores eat plants to get their nutrients. While they do rely on plants, they don't directly use light energy themselves, instead, they depend on plants that do. Finally, we have D, producer. Producers are organisms like plants, algae, and certain bacteria that use light energy directly through a process called photosynthesis. They convert sunlight into chemical energy, which forms the foundation of food chains. So, the correct answer is D, producer. Producers are the primary organisms that depend on light energy to create their own food and sustain themselves, making them essential to almost all ecosystems. To sum it up, producers harness sunlight to create energy-rich compounds that other organisms rely on. This process is vital for life on Earth, as it supports herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers in the food web. The next question, interesting question about ecosystems and agricultural practices. Let's take a look at the scenario and figure out which statements about a wheat field are correct. Here's the question: a farmer is growing wheat in a field. The farmer uses insecticides to kill insect pests and chemicals to kill weeds in the field. Which statements about this field are correct? Your options are: 1. Both the wheat and the weeds are producers. 2. Insects feed at the first trophic level. 3. Weeds may use light, water, and mineral ions that the wheat plants need. Let's break down each statement to find the right answer. First, statement 1, both the wheat and the weeds are producers. Plants, including wheat and weeds, are producers because they can perform photosynthesis. This means they produce their own food using sunlight. So, statement 1 is correct. Next, statement 2, insects feed at the first trophic level. Insects are not producers, they are consumers. The first trophic level is reserved for producers like plants. Insects feed on plants and are considered primary consumers, so statement 2 is incorrect. Finally, statement 3, weeds may use light, water, and mineral ions that the wheat plants need. Weeds, being plants themselves, compete with wheat for these essential resources. This competition can affect the wheat's growth, making statement 3 correct. So, combining these insights, the correct answer is option B, 1 and 3 only. Both wheat and weeds are producers, and weeds do compete with wheat for resources. Insects, however, do not feed at the first trophic level. In this question, exploring the fascinating flow of substances within an ecosystem. Which circle in an ecosystem diagram typically represents herbivores? A, B, C, D. The correct answer is option C. Now let's look at all options. First, circle A represents atmospheric air. While it's essential for the carbon cycle, as it provides carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, it doesn't represent a specific trophic level in the food chain. Circle B is for producers, such as plants and algae. These organisms capture sunlight and convert carbon dioxide from the air into organic compounds through photosynthesis. This process not only produces the food but also plays a crucial role in the carbon cycle by removing CO2 from the atmosphere. Asterisk. Circle D represents carnivores, which are secondary or tertiary consumers that feed on other animals. They obtain their organic compounds indirectly by consuming herbivores or other carnivores. Carnivores, in turn, release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere through respiration. That brings us to circle C, which correctly represents herbivores. Herbivores are primary consumers that feed directly on producers. By consuming plants, they ingest the organic compounds that were synthesized by the producers. This flow of organic compounds from producers to herbivores is crucial for transferring energy through the food chain. Here's how it all connects. Producers use carbon dioxide to create organic compounds during photosynthesis. Herbivores then consume these compounds, and carnivores consume the herbivores. As organisms respire, They release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, where it's used again by producers. Decomposers also play a role by breaking down dead organisms and returning carbon compounds to the soil, which can be taken up by plants. This cyclical process ensures the flow of energy and nutrients through the ecosystem and maintains the balance of carbon dioxide. To summarize, Circle C represents herbivores, which are vital for transferring energy from producers. They fit into the larger picture of how organic compounds and carbon dioxide flow through ecosystems, supporting the balance and health of our environment. Moving on, we'll explore a question about how carbon moves through the environment, and by the end, you'll be a pro at understanding these processes. Here's the question we'll be solving today. The diagram shows part of the carbon cycle. What are the processes labeled X and Y? Now, let's take a look at the four possible options. Option A, X is photosynthesis, and Y is decomposition. Option B, X is photosynthesis, and Y is excretion. Option C, X is respiration, and Y is photosynthesis. Option D, X is respiration, and Y is respiration. The correct answer is Option D, X is respiration, and Y is respiration. Let's break it down and explain why. In this part of the carbon cycle, carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere is taken up by green plants during photosynthesis. However, in the diagram, the processes X and Y are related to how CO2 is returned to the atmosphere. Process X is respiration. Both plants and animals release CO2 through respiration. It's a process that happens constantly, as living organisms convert glucose into energy, releasing CO2 as a byproduct. Process Y is also respiration, but this time it refers to the decomposition of dead organisms. When plants and animals die, decomposers like bacteria and fungi break down their organic matter, and CO2 is released back into the atmosphere through respiration. This is why both processes X and Y involve respiration in the diagram. So there you have it. In this part of the carbon cycle, CO2 is cycled back into the atmosphere through respiration, both by living organisms and by decomposers. I hope this explanation helped clarify the carbon cycle for you. Alright, we're down to our final question for today. Let's dive right into it. Here's the question. The diagram shows some structures, Q, on the roots of a bean plant. Which chemical change fixes nitrogen in these structures? Here are your options. A. Ammonium salts to nitrates. B. Nitrogen to ammonium salts. C. Proteins to amino acids. D. Proteins to ammonium salts. The correct answer is B. Nitrogen to ammonium salts. But why is this the right choice? These structures on the roots of the bean plant are called root nodules. Inside these nodules, there are special bacteria known as rhizobium. These bacteria have an incredible ability. They can take atmospheric nitrogen, which is N2, and convert it into ammonium salts, or NH4. This process is known as nitrogen fixation. It's crucial because it makes nitrogen available in a form that plants can use to grow and thrive. Without this natural process, plants wouldn't be able to access the nitrogen they need from the air. So, next time you see a bean plant, remember the amazing partnership between the plant and these tiny nitrogen-fixing bacteria. It's nature's way of recycling and nourishing our soil. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more educational content. If you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to leave a comment below.